Hello and welcome to the latest episode of Empire Sports Talk. I am your host, Roman Gennaro. We have a lot to cover this week, so let's jump right in. This has been a very strange couple of weeks in sports. A lot of things have been going on all over the sports world, but first, we must say congratulations to the Philadelphia Eagles for defeating the New England Patriots 41-33 in Super Bowl 52 to claim their first Super Bowl championship in franchise history. Big day for Philadelphia fans. A lot of celebrities that from Philadelphia came out to support the team and have celebrated the victory. Will Smith, Bradley Cooper, Kevin Hart, and the Roots, just to name a few. Big week for Philadelphia, and very happy for the city. It was a surprise for a lot of people that thought, down 8 points, that Tom Brady was gonna finish it off and do what Tom Brady does, and it was surprising to me that there were that many points put on the board. A total of 74 points, and it was the most yards, I believe, in a Super Bowl. It might have been in playoff history too. It was a crazy game. Congratulations to both teams for making it that far, but congratulations to Philadelphia for doing what they needed to do to shock the world, so to speak, and take down Tom Brady and the Patriots. What was a little iffy was Tom Brady's response to what happened. As I said, it was a high-scoring game, a very offensive game, and what many people saw as even though it came down to one final heave by Tom Brady into the end zone, what many people saw as the clinching play was the strip sack by Brandon Graham that was recovered by Derek Barnett on Tom Brady there at the end. And Tom Brady, I don't know if it was in his frustration of losing or what, but his response was that strip sack was the Eagles' only good play of the game. And I've usually defended Tom Brady's competitiveness. A lot of people see him as cocky or arrogant or whatever, but it's all competitive nature. Like when it came out that maybe he wasn't helping Jimmy Garoppolo develop as he should, I was the first one to say, hey, he's just a super competitive guy, so it makes sense that you wouldn't want to assist the guy that's coming to take your job. The same thing with Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, same type of thing. Those are two ultra competitive guys. So I've always, defended Tom Brady's competitiveness, but the team put up 41 points and they beat you. And you're saying the team's only, not the defense, the team's only good play was the strip sack of you when they put 41 points on the board. Mathematically, that does not match up. So Tom Brady, and he's since congratulated. He's thanked the Eagles for bringing the best out of the Patriots. So he's pulled back on that a little, but still, it was just something that didn't match up. Congratulations are in order to Terrell Owens, Brian Urlacher, Randy Moss, Brian Dawkins, and Ray Lewis, as they became the newest members to the NFL Hall of Fame to be enshrined in Canton, Ohio, this time around. We were just talking about the 4 guys that were voted into the Baseball Hall of Fame, and here we are with these group of guys getting into the NFL Hall of Fame. We talked about how the baseball guys, I grew up watching all of them, and in the same way grew up watching all these guys. I've actually had the opportunity to meet Terrell Owens, and Brian Dawkins was always one of my favorite defensive players. Ray Lewis is an all-time great. So to see these guys get in, because there was a lot of speculation to if Terrell Owens would get in or not. Well, he is, and it's cool. As I said, I've met him before, and he's a real good guy. Congratulations to all the names on this list. This is truly a star-studded list, as the Hall of Fame should be, of guys to get in. So congratulations to those guys who are the newest members of the NFL Hall of Fame. Congratulations. In more NFL news, Alex Smith was traded to the Washington Redskins this past week, and normally that's not news, but I find it. This has now happened to him twice, that he was traded to another team because there was someone else behind him. In other words, for no other reason, for nothing that he did, he was traded from the team that he was helping to win. First time it was in San Francisco. He got him to the playoffs, got him all the way to the NFC Championship game. He gets hurt. He's replaced by Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick nearly wins them the Super Bowl, and then Alex Smith never really plays another snap for San Francisco, effectively benched because of a concussion that he suffered in the playoffs. And then he goes to Kansas City. He's matched up with Andy Reid. He has Pro Bowl seasons, playoff seasons. This year he led the league. I believe he led the league in touchdown to interception ratio and passer rating. I'm not certain about passer rating, but he did. And they made it to the playoffs before being surprised by the Tennessee Titans in the first round, based on a comeback effort. And now he's being traded to Washington, presumably because Kansas City's ready to move on to their backup, Patrick Mahomes, who is being heralded as the next Brett Favre, and they're really high on that guy. So Alex Smith is once again on the move because of circumstances beyond his control. He goes to Washington, where he's going to supplant another quarterback who seemed to be the franchise guy in Kirk Cousins. So where Kirk Cousins is going to end up, we don't know, because a few months ago, Kirk Cousins was seemingly going to be the target of the 49ers, who needed their franchise guy, and Kyle Shanahan seemed really high on Kirk Cousins, and that was supposedly going to happen until the 49ers signed Jimmy Garoppolo, who also made news this week. More on that later. But I definitely feel sympathy for Alex Smith in that he's now been traded twice because of the person behind him, because of things that he couldn't control. And I believe he's the first person in NFL history to lead the league in it was either passer rating or touchdown to interception ratio, and then get traded the following year. So hopefully Alex Smith can bring some wins to Jay Gruden and the Washington Redskins. So we'll have to keep an eye out for that. Funny story as we stay with football a little bit more. Funny story out of National Signing Day was this week, where the top high school players in the country declare their choices to play college football. And there was a funny scene in Pensacola, Florida this week as four-star wide receiver Jacob Copeland was in his high school gymnasium, surrounded by his classmates, his coaches, his family, and it was on television to choose his team for next season. And he had narrowed it down to the University of Alabama, the University of Florida, and the University of Tennessee. And you could tell which way his family was leaning because, some of them were wearing Tennessee gear, some of them were wearing Alabama gear. And then there was his mother, who had on, I believe, an Alabama hat and a Tennessee shirt or sweatshirt, or it could have been the other way around, seemingly saying, do not pick Florida. Like, pick either one of these, and we're fine. Everybody in his family or his group was either wearing Alabama or Florida, or Tennessee. So you can kind of see why this story is funny. Jacob Copeland chose to go play for the University of Florida. Stay home. He's from Pensacola, so Gainesville's not that far. He chose to stay at home and play for the University of Florida. This is funny because when he did, his mother stood up and left the table. She just walked out of the press conference. Just for no other reason that I talk about that I think it's funny that his mother would do that. And I don't know if she obviously had her choices. I don't know what went into his decision to I don't know. But I just thought it was something funny out of National Signing Day. We don't get to talk about high school sports a lot, so I wanted to bring that up. We're going to shift gears a little bit, but not really, because Russell Wilson, the quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, it's widely known that he's a very talented baseball player. He was drafted out of high school to play baseball. He chose to go to college. He was drafted again in college, chose to stay. But then, after he was already playing in the NFL, he signed with. He struck a deal with the Rangers that would allow him to come to spring training every year. So he's been coming to spring training with the Texas Rangers as kind of a conditioning thing and to keep his love of baseball. And we thought that's where it ended. This week, Russell Wilson, the quarterback of the Seattle Seahawks, was traded to the New York Yankees and will report to spring training in Florida this month for the Yankees. And he tweeted out on his Twitter. He said, "Dad, I told you that one day I'd be a Yankee," or something to that effect. So it's really interesting the way that Russell Wilson has kind of put his foot in two camps. He's not going to play a game for the Yankees, but he's an NFL player. He's made that clear. But he's going to go to Yankee spring training and work out with the team. That's a lot of star power in that camp. You got Aaron Judge and Giancarlo Stanton, and now Russell Wilson. We're wearing pinstripes this spring for the Yankees. Jumping in with both feet to Major League Baseball, there's been a lot of controversy surrounding the NFL, a lot of drama there. There's a lot of drama in the NBA. It's always kind of seemed that baseball was the drama-free side of the sports family, but they're trying to get in on it now. It seems that the MLB Players Union are accusing teams of threatening the integrity of the game due to the record number of unsigned free agents going into spring training. There's been a lot of controversy around that. There's a lot of guys unsigned. Eric Hosmer, J.D. Martinez, Mike Moustakas, big names that have not found homes for the upcoming season. And so now the Players Union has taken exception to that. The problem with that is, did you ever stop to think that the reason that so many players are unsigned, Jake Arrieta is another one, so many players are unsigned going into this year is because every agent now thinks that their client is worth $400 million, thanks to the theoretical figure that Bryce Harper put into the universe for his next contract next year. You ever think that now every agent thinks that every client of theirs is a $300-400 million man, and teams can only afford one of those, or not even one? I mean, teams are trying to build World Series teams like the Astros, or they're trying to compete with the Astros. And do you think the Astros would be able to compete if two or three of their guys decided that their agents decided that they were worth $400 million? No, they would not. No team except maybe the Yankees could afford that, and that's why they were the ones that were able to take over Stanton's contract. So now, I mean, we know that the Hosmer camp is commanding a lot. We know that J.D. Martinez is expecting somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million. There are a few guys in the league that you could argue are top bill guys. But even when Robinson Cano signed his 10-year, $300 million deal with Seattle, people thought that was crazy, and a lot of people don't think that he's come anywhere close to matching that number in value. So it's not that, the Players Union is making it sound like the MLB is being vindictive, like, we just don't want these guys in the game. We don't want these guys to play. 'Cause why would that ever be the case? Why would you try to keep your best players out of the game? The reason is these agents think that every single player that they represent is worth $200, $300, $400 million. And there's no way you can build a team if you have one or two guys that are valued at that mark. You would never be able to get a quality bench or quality bullpen and one or two other players if you're valuing every star player in this astronomical number that is totally unrealistic. So it's not an issue of threatening the integrity. It's an issue of being realistic as far as the agents are concerned, and realizing that the point of professional sports is to build a winning team, is to build a championship team, a team that compete. And in order to compete in baseball, you have to have a complete team. And the only way you have a complete team is if you structure contracts and money around to fill every need. Throwing $400 million to two separate guys to fill two positions, and they might get hurt, that's not realistic. So it's not an issue of integrity. It's an issue of realistic pricing of your clients. And that's a message to the sports agents. Now there's going to be a free agent spring training, which is a great idea. But it's not an issue of people thinking that they can't play. It's an issue of, as I said, unrealistic contract expectations and unrealistic contract offers, which is the first problem. So hopefully that gets settled, and these guys find a home, because they deserve to play, because they're too good not to. All right, we're gonna jump into Roman's ridiculous 6. And I really had to narrow it down this week. We had a bunch in there, so I really had to narrow down the ridiculous 6 for the last couple of weeks since we were off last week. Number 1 on Roman's ridiculous 6, the Cleveland Indians have announced that they plan to remove the Chief Wahoo logo from their uniforms by 2019. This isn't really a surprise. We've been talking about it for a few years. It started a few years ago when Dan Snyder, the owner of the Washington Redskins, was talking about changing their name, and now everybody's wondering if it's insensitive at all to have any of that represented. So the Indians have decided to remove the Chief Wahoo logo and go with the more classic just Indians and the C that they've been using on and off for a couple of years now, but by 2019 that'll be gone. The reason this is on Ridiculous 6 is it has nothing really to do with the Indians at all, but with Roger Goodell, who we already know is kind of an attention grabber, kind of wants everything to come back to him. Spoke up about the issue, saying that we in the NFL are fine with the Redskins, which you weren't saying that a few years ago, but you just want attention, so you're gonna, pull that out. So there he was. But then again, no Indians fans have a problem, no baseball fans have a problem with it. Again, this is the new generation that we live in, think everything is offensive. And I got newsflash for you there. There's no way in any side of any argument in the history of the world that you're going to make everybody happy. If you make a change because you think someone is offended, the change you make is going to offend somebody else, and so on and so forth forever, for the rest of time. That's why people have different opinions. But the Cleveland Indians have been around for a long time. The players have come out in support of Chief Wahoo. And that's just the way it is now, I guess. So the Cleveland Indians will no longer use the Chief Wahoo logo by the year 2019. Number 2 on Roman's Ridiculous 6. I'm probably going to get some flack for this, but there are a lot of people I know that agree with me. The Giants plan to retire Barry Bonds' number 25 this summer. I've been conflicted by this, only because it's all but confirmed that he's never said the words that he did steroids, and he's never going to. But it's all been confirmed that Barry Bonds was a huge part of the steroid era in baseball. All you have to do is look at his year-to-year measurements during his career, and then write about when the home runs started to take off. And now the Giants are going to retire his number. Most real baseball fans, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers by saying real baseball fans, but baseball purists and people like that don't acknowledge Barry Bonds as the home run king because of his use of steroids, or at least think that there should be an asterisk by his name in the books. A lot of people believe that Hank Aaron should still be acknowledged as the home run king, but regardless of that, Barry Bonds edged closer this year in the Hall of Fame voting, but like Sammy Sosa, like Roger Clemens, he will never get in because of his suspected steroids is a thing you don't even have to be confirmed. If you're suspected of it, that tarnishes you for forever in your career. But the Giants are going to retire the number 25 for Barry Bonds this year, forever memorializing the dark cloud surrounding his career. Up there with greats like Willie Mays, Willie McCovey, and now Barry Bonds. Have the Cubs retired Sammy Sosa's number? Has anybody retired Rafael Palmeiro's, Larry Walker's? No, because pretty much if you're suspected, that's it. Have the Yankees or Red Sox retired Roger Clemens? Nope. So I think this is a mistake by the Giants to retire Barry Bonds, because we're just getting we're trying to get past the steroid era. There are still steroid users in the game, and for the most part they are cracked down on. But baseball is cleaning itself up after the black eye that was the steroid era. So do we really want to kind of bring it back by honoring somebody who was the face of that era? I don't think so. Number 3 on Roman's Ridiculous 6, Detroit Pistons center Andre Drummond made headlines this week when they announced the rosters for the All-Star game, the NBA All-Star game. Andre Drummond's name was left off, and he was not pleased. He took to Twitter. He said, "I can't believe that I was left off." He thought he should be an All-Star. About a day later, he was. Kevin Love got hurt, had to go out of the All-Star game, and Andre Drummond was named in his place. But the fact that he complained does not look good for him. With not so much baseball, but with football and basketball, like with those being more physical things and injuries happen. Because baseball, if you're hurt, guys, well in advance if you're going to be an all-star, if you're going to be able to play or not. So there's not as many replacements. But in basketball and football, that if you're left off the initial rosters, there's a good chance that by the time the game actually comes, you can get a shot if you think that you're close, because they announce the rosters a couple weeks in advance, and a lot can happen. So we especially see that in basketball. A lot of guys get hurt. A lot of guys get named as replacements. So if Andre Drummond is sitting here thinking, "Oh, I should be an all-star," just hang on a second, because it literally took a day for you to get in, but now you've complained. You didn't see Kemba Walker complain, and Kemba Walker got in because of injuries, and so if you think you're going to be an all-star, wait a few days and if you're going to complain, which I don't recommend, complain the night of the game. when all the replacements have been named. Because now it just makes you look silly that you complained, but you're in, and now you look silly. Number 4 on Roman's Ridiculous 6. With LeBron's free agency looming and there being issues with the Cavs, one of the teams we've heard a lot. Will he stay in Cleveland? Will he go to the Lakers? Will he go to Houston? Or where will LeBron go? Is the big question. I personally believe that he will stick around in Cleveland. If he doesn't, I think Houston will be where he ends up. But I think he'll stay in Cleveland. But the ridiculous thing was that his name was floated to the Warriors. And this is absurd. Because even if he wanted to go to the Warriors, there's no way they could do that with Steph Curry, Draymond Green, LeBron James, Kevin Durant, and Klay Thompson. There's no chance of that happening monetarily. If he did. He does not, and he made that very clear pretty early on. He basically said, why would I do that? He basically said, because LeBron knows that he made a mistake going as big with the Miami thing as he did. He knows that the decision was in speaking to the television special, the decision was a mistake. He knows that going to the Heat kind of tarnished his legacy, and so he went back to Cleveland, got the championship, and now he's good. So why, and that's basically what he said, why would he do that again to himself? If he goes to the Warriors, much like Kevin Durant, but worse, if he goes to the Warriors, his reputation in the league will be forever vilified. Like, he has redeemed himself quite a bit, by going back to Cleveland. But if he did that and then went to the Warriors, that would be absolutely the worst thing he could do. And he's even said, like, these guys are my rivals, and like I don't like, year after year playing these guys, and we have a bitter rivalry. Why would I join them? Is what he's saying. But we know that the Cavs have had some issues. They basically dumped half their team a few days ago at the trade, or yesterday at the trade deadline. But before they did, Isaiah Thomas, who was traded, but before he said, basically, when things get tough, we go our separate ways, and saying that the team's chemistry was not where it should be. Okay, in an NBA locker room, or NFL locker room, MLB locker room, in a long season, things are going to happen. People are not always going to see eye to eye. There are going to be arguments. There's going to be chemistry issues. That's going to happen. The worst thing you can do when your team is having those issues is say them out loud to the media. Like, handle those in-house and do what you have to do. Don't go saying, yeah, we don't stick up for each other. Yeah, we don't do this. Yeah, we don't have good chemistry, to the media. Have a team meeting and say those things. And I don't disagree with the opinion that maybe that had something to do with him being shipped out 2 days later after saying those words. So maybe, but anyway, the idea of LeBron to the Warriors is ridiculous, even with those locker room issues, which might be fixed now that half that team is somewhere else. Number 5, Patriots offensive coordinator Josh McDaniels, about a month or so ago, was named the next head coach of the Indianapolis Colts, but he couldn't officially be named the coach until the Patriots season was over, which happened after the Super Bowl, and the Colts, a couple of days later, went so far as to say, we have reached terms, we have agreed to terms with Josh McDaniels. He will be our next head coach. The press conference is tomorrow, is basically what they said. And then A few hours later, Josh McDaniels has changed his mind and will return to the Patriots. So he burned the Colts at the last minute. My theory, even though there's been an article saying maybe this wasn't it, my theory is that because in between the time that the Colts said what they said and Josh McDaniels changed his mind, Bill Belichick announced that he was coming back next season. That was a question heading out of this year if he was going to be back. He confirmed it between the Colts tweet and Josh McDaniels. My thought is Belichick got to Josh McDaniels and in not so many words said, this could be my last year, and when I go, it's yours. The Patriots said this was not what was said, but they said they did make promises to Josh McDaniels to teach him about roster construction and more about what he needs to know, things you need to know if you're in charge of a team. So even though they said that that they didn't tell him that he is next, I think that is what happened behind the scenes. I think Josh McDaniels is the head coach in waiting for the New England Patriots, but it is still ridiculous that he burned the Colts at the last minute. I was really looking forward to the combination of him and Andrew Luck, but I guess we'll have to see who they get instead. Number 6 on Roman's Ridiculous 6, and I'm a little conflicted about this as well. I'll tell you why. Number 6, Jimmy Garoppolo signed an extension with the San Francisco 49ers this week, making him the highest paid player in the NFL. Despite only having 7 career starts, he is the richest man year to year in the NFL. He does. Looking at the top 5 salaries for next year, in order, we have Jimmy Garoppolo, Matthew Stafford, Derek Carr, Andrew Luck, and Drew Brees. If you notice anything about that list, it's that only one of those quarterbacks has a Super Bowl as a starter. Jimmy Garoppolo has 2, but let's not pass over the fact that those 2 were Tom Brady. Jimmy Garoppolo did not take a snap in either of those Super Bowls. And so Drew Brees is the only person in the top 5 of next year's earnings that has a Super Bowl ring. It seems now that every time any player signs an extension, they become the new highest paid player. It's obvious that it has nothing to do with that player's skill level or production. It has to do with, it's a fashion statement in the NFL now to be the highest paid player. I'm not saying Jimmy Garoppolo's not good and will earn that one day, but in the next 5 seasons, which is the length of this contract, in the next 5 years, Jimmy Garoppolo will make more than Tom Brady made in his first 14 years. 14. Tom Brady is the one who deserves to be the highest paid player in the NFL because of all the Super Bowls, because of the milestones, because of the seats, because of the jersey sales that he has, because of he is the face of the NFL. He is one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. He deserves to be the highest paid player, and it took him his first 14 years to make what Jimmy's going to make in 5. And in those first 14 years, Tom Brady won 4 Super Bowls, including the 2, or one of the 2 that Jimmy Garoppolo also has a ring for. So Jimmy Garoppolo effectively has no Super Bowls. We're not going to count the ones where he was on the bench. He has no Super Bowls, and he's going to make more in the next 5 years than Tom Brady made in 14 years with 4 Super Bowls. And of those 5, Andrew Luck, Derek Carr, and Jimmy Garoppolo all have under 100 starts. Jimmy Garoppolo and Derek Carr have no postseason experience. Derek Carr would have last season if he hadn't gotten injured. They have no postseason experience. Matthew Stafford is 0 for 3 in the postseason. I believe Andrew Luck is 3-3. He has 6 postseason starts. And then obviously Drew Brees has a Super Bowl. I find it outrageous that the most successful person on this list is last, is 5th. And that Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger and Julio Jones and guys that are actually super productive and actually win their team games, actually win their games for their team aren't on this list. Guys that have won Super Bowls, guys that have played in Super Bowls, guys that have proved year after year that they deserve to be among the highest paid players in the NFL for yearly earnings. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo one day will be deserving of the highest paid player honors. I think he is a great fit in San Francisco. I think for the next 5, 6, 7, 8 years, the NFC Championship game will be the 49ers and the Eagles year after year, and I look forward to that. But right now, and I'd say the same thing about Carson Wentz, they shouldn't be among the highest paid players. Carson Wentz is not, but it wouldn't surprise me. Among the highest paid players in yearly earnings. I think it's silly. We should give that honor to people that have proved something in this league. I wish Jimmy G all the best, but he hasn't earned that money yet. And you shouldn't give somebody the money that they haven't earned, being like, oh well, you will earn this. No, you give it to them after they have. So that's his 5-year contract making him the highest paid player in the league after only 7 starts is ridiculous. That is all the time that we have for Roman's Ridiculous 6. Now we move on to our segment, Emperor of the Week, and this one makes me laugh because it's unexpected. And this was one of the things that I cut from Ridiculous 6 just because I knew I'd get a chance to talk about it now. The Emperor of the Week this week is Alex Trebek. Yeah, that's right. The host of Jeopardy. Makes it on this week's Emperor of the Week because on an episode of Jeopardy, and you can go to our Facebook page and watch this video, and I highly recommend you do. There was a football category for the 3 contestants, and it came down to those were the only options, and Jeopardy has the 6 questions per category, and it came time for these 3 contestants to get there because they had answered every other question on the board, and they show the board, and the whole thing is empty except for the football column, which is full. They hadn't even touched it, and they get to it. 6 questions they go through. Not one of the 3 contestants ventures and even tries to answer the 6 questions, and Alex Trebek is just standing there kind of dumbfounded, even laughing a little bit that this is a category for a very intellectual show that these guys have no clue about. I highly recommend that you go watch the video on our Facebook page or look it up. Just say Jeopardy contestants answer football questions. I highly recommend that you go check it out. It's good for a laugh, and because of the way that he handled the situation, Alex Trebek gets the award for Emperor of the Week this week for our show. That is all the time we have for Empire Sports Talk. Go check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Spreaker.com. Follow us. Let us know what you like about the show, what you don't like, what you want to see, topics you want us to talk about, and we'll get to them. But check that out. Go check out that Trebek video if you want to smile for the week. That's all we have for this week's episode. I am your host, Roman Gennaro, signing off. See you next time.